Hello and welcome from Cotswold Fireworks. We are testing the Firetech firing system in wireless mode today, and the idea is that this firing system uses a mesh wireless networking which enables it to hop and repeat the signal from each module to the next one. What this means is that the module at the very end of the display does not necessarily have to be within range of the master controller that we've got here in the boot of the car. So the way to do this is to use this building, which is a large warehouse. As you can see, it's very long. It's about 100 meters wide, 150 meters long, and contains a lot of metal. And I can tell you now that wireless signal does not go through the building. So the idea for the mesh hopping is that we're going to put the master controller here, and for argument's sake the display will be on the other side of this building, straight through there, about 100 meters the other side. And to get the wireless signal around the building, we will put a Firetech FTH48S module on each corner. This will give us line of sight wireless going from the master controller in the boot of the car down to the corner down by the flag, 100 meters around the corner, and we'll put another module and enter the actual display proper, which is on the other side of this building. And in theory we should get a wireless signal. Now we're working with a mesh system. You want to start with the master controller, which you power on first of all. This is new firmware 5.2b, so it contains the latest firmware that is in use by Firetech, and we're currently in create network mode. Self-test is okay. You can actually say yes, we're happy, go back, we're in create network. So it's actually waiting for modules to turn on. So what we'll do is we will walk around to every corner, add a module, turn it on, and see what we get for signal. So just in case the car is causing an issue, we'll put it out here. I don't believe it will. There we go. And put the modules in the bag and go for a bit of a walk and see how this performs. I understand that in testing over in Romania that they get 18 miles out of this, where you're doing maximum transmit distance between modules. Well, we're only going to do a couple of 100 meters from one side of this building to the other, but it is a good test. It gives us an idea that if you don't have line of sight to your fireworks, you can, using modules, create a network. So take module number 1 out. First things, you need the antenna. No antenna, you're not going to get any signal length. I'm not going to raise the modules up off the floor, I'm just going to leave them at ground level. If you raise them up by a foot, you'll get a much better signal. Turn it on, wait for its initialization and test, and we will give this module number 1, and OK. And straight away it's already got a good signal strength between itself and the master controller. No need to worry about the battery, which is quite, well, I won't say quite low. It says it's less than 50%. Still fire a display on that, no problem at all. Signal strength perfect with the master controller. Right, to the next corner of the building. Here we go to the next corner. Next module out. Screw the antenna on. Power it on. Wait for initialization. Give this module number . Okay, this one's actually programmed already as program 1. So what we'll do, we'll turn that off. Go back to this module down here and give it program number 2. Silly me, should have deleted all the programs in the module already. Well, that's okay. We can mess around, that's what this is all about. It doesn't matter which order the modules are turned on. What you do need to do is turn the master controller on first, and then work outwards from the master controller, powering on the modules that are closest, moving furthest away. So we'll turn this one off, which had a lovely signal. We'll go back to the master. We'll turn the master off and on again just so it forgets the code on that one, which is always worth doing. And start afresh. And yeah, I could delete this out of the video, but let's face it, it's all part of the learning process that you'll get out in the field, and practice makes perfect. So power it off. There we go. Let's power back on. Now we only brought 4 modules with us, so what we'll do is test OK, create network, thank you, creating network, back to the corner module, and we'll give it an ID of 6 or 7. It doesn't really matter on the IDs, we're just using it as a communication hop to get to the next corner of the building so we can get to our fireworks display. So in this case we will just give it an ID somewhere in the region of what we're not using, for example, for our program displays. So what we'll do, power them on, wait for initialization. Increase the ID and we'll give it 10. Do OK. And that's straight in. It's found the wireless master controller, full signal strength, no rails connected. ID 10, S for slave. It's a slave to the master, quite rightly. And if you wait a few seconds, what it will do is pick up the GPS time signal. There we go. Custom time, 2:30 in the afternoon. Yep, just about right that. And the 11 above the wireless tells us that it took 11 milliseconds, or it takes 11 milliseconds for a communication between the master controller and this module. As you can see, it does go up and go as it's checking and testing to see what's available. So we're currently running about 76-86 milliseconds as a roundabout signal and back again. We'll leave it at that. Let's move on to that next module, which we now know is going to be ID 1. In fact, while we're here, as it's got a pre-programmed script in it, we will make that actually the module that goes by the fireworks, so we'll get out a different module out the bag, one that's not got a script in it, to run as our corner. Never thought I'd walk so far on a Monday bank holiday, but there we go. All part of the fun. So what we'll do, as that one's got a pre-programmed script, let's get another one out. Find one that's not got any programming in it. Put the antenna on. Power on, initialization. Okay, so it's got no program script in it, it's asking us for an ID. We will give this one an ID of 11, and that makes it the other corner. 11, okay. Righty-ho. Now, at this point, because it's come up and says the rails are not connected, it has found the master controller. Now, it's not line of sight to the master controller at all. It's around the corner. So, that should be using communication from this module to that module on the corner, and then, of course, around the side to the master controller parked by the car. And picks up a GPS, and we are getting 49 milliseconds communication, not to the next module but to the master controller. So the hop is giving us 57-60 milliseconds. Good, that's a good start. Right, let's put that one back in the bag and take that round to where we would do the display. As we see, other side of the building, and for argument purposes we'll just put it on this patio over here. We'll put 2 modules out. Get a proof of concept. Now this one, which we have pre-programmed script on, is ID1. That should be powering up. There we go, ID1. It's found the small wireless signal. There we go. There is no rails connected, so it's saying, oh, I'm expecting 12 firings on rail 1, and there's nothing. Very low signal at the moment. And here's the next one, which will plop on. Give it a chance to power up. This one will give ID 2. So 1 and 2 are the boxes that will have some kind of fireworks attached to them. Full signal to a device. Now, in theory, that should be talking to this one, and this one is talking to the one in the corner, the one in the corner around the side. There we go, it's picked up the GPS, and we've got 38 milliseconds ping time. This one hasn't picked up GPS yet, but it will get there. Battery life's pretty good on both of them. Okay, now as soon as we've got all the fireworks plugged in, we should be able to go back to our master controller and see all 4 modules working. As I've already mentioned, what you really want to do with any kind of wireless device, regardless of manufacturer, the higher you can get it, the better the signal when working line of sight. And you only need to get it a foot off the ground. What we do with these FireTech boxes to increase the signal is when we've shut the case, ready for the display, we turn it on its side and put the antenna up. And that is very good for just increasing the signal. It's very useful to do that. So we'll leave that one like that, just as an idea. So back to the master controller. And let's see what we got. Oh, I'm out of breath, I'm getting old. Okay, master controller says slaves 4, which is perfect. It's exactly what we got. Now while we're still in create slave network, I hope you can see this screen, is that you can page between all the devices. ID1 is expecting a rail of 12 fireworks. It's currently empty, but it does show us that the ping, which is going across to the 2 corners of the warehouse and around the corner to the device 1, module 1, is 163 milliseconds to get there, and signal is good. CN is connected, that's fine. We go to ID2, and yes, we've got a signal there. It's blipping between 3/4 and full signal. 146 milliseconds, nothing connected on any of the rails, quite rightly. And then we go to ID10. Now, ID10 was the first module that we put out on the corner. Absolutely fine, which means ID11 is the second module to put out on the corner. A bit flickery, flaky on the signal strength, but that's the one we haven't turned the module on its side. But it does go to show that we do have communication between all 4 devices, and that really is how simple mesh networking is to put out on a FireTech. As I say, start by turning the master module on and then work outwards. Turn your closest modules on first that have line of sight to the master module, and work outwards to the modules that only have line of sight to their nearest neighbors, the ones that are closer to the remote. What you don't want to do is bring all your modules back to your van, turn them on, get a nice connection, and then move them into place. That won't necessarily work because the modules won't have known about using the mesh, because they'd all been able to talk back to the master without any issues. So put the modules into the position you want to use them, turn the master on, and then start with your closest modules moving outwards, and that will give you a lovely network of 4 slaves. At this point you want to see some pyro connected, so we have 4 rails with 6 items on each, and we will go, I'll leave the camera running, I'll run round and I'll plug these rails in and give you an idea that they are actually working. I'll just leave that there for a moment. Give me a few seconds. I'll leave the camera rolling. Let's go and put 4 rails in on the firing boxes. Okay, we've applied the rails, so we've now got 24 fireworks, 6 fireworks on 4 rails, and let's see what we got. So we come out of Create Network, and we can ignore faults and warnings because the pre-programmed script is thinking that ID1 should have 12 fireworks on rail 1. Rail 1 isn't even plugged in, so we can ignore the fact it's saying that. What I have done is plugged in 6 fireworks on rail 3, which is why we got the question marks, and 6 fireworks on rail 4, which is why we got a row of question marks. The pre-programmed script is saying I've got igniters on rails that aren't supposed to be used in the script. If we go across to box number 2, we find that rail 1 has 6 igniters, rail 2 has 6 igniters. As there's no script on this box, it doesn't care, it's not going to give us any warnings to say they're in the wrong place, it's just happily waiting. And as we know, ID 10 is the corner box down there, and ID 11 is the other corner box just hopping the signal around. And we've got good signals on this. So what we can do is we can arm the system. Now what's new in 5.2b is while you're arming, the system is constantly monitoring the boxes to make sure they really truly arm, and the boxes will tell us they are armed. So we should see a delay as the arming signal is coming back to say we're happy. So we'll press and hold. Fault sounds, yes we know, we can ignore those. So press again, and it will now arm the boxes. Armed. Ready to fire. As simple as that. Every box is now armed, and we can page through and we see it's armed and armed, and the modules containing the fireworks now have stuff to fire. Modules that are just using that just transferring the signal have no rails, there's nothing armed. They're still armed, but there's nothing to fire on them, and you can't fire anything on them because there's no rails connected. Back to ID 1, we're ready to fire and we're armed. So we could go for box number 1, rail 3, firework 1, fire. Rail 4, firework 1, fire. And we can do the rest, and it will happily fire those boxes. Back to ID box 2, rail 2, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and that's fired the entire rail. Rail number 1, 2, 4, 6. It's happy. It's absolutely happy. Come back out, disarmed. We're now back to disarm mode. So that's fine. It works. It's wireless mesh in its simplest form, and it absolutely works. Absolutely perfect. Now, when you think about it, the problem we've got is that we have wasted 2 of our expensive modules just to push a signal around the side of a building into 2 corners. And that's 96 firing points that could have been used in a display. So the other thing about FireTech is it contains the CAN bus. So the rubbers underneath this master come off to give us the 2-wire connection that we need to create a CAN bus. So our next experiment is to run a cable from this box all the way around the building to the firing site, and then we plug into one of the modules on the CAN bus. The remaining modules will connect wirelessly to the one that's connected over the cable, and the cable will bring the signal back to the master controller here. I'm going to turn the camera off while we do that, so I'll just run the cable, because let's face it, it's just cheap and tacky bell wire cable, lots and lots in it. I'm going to run 2 of these reels to connect it all up, and then we'll be back online afterwards.